All right, let's jump right in. You know those days, right? You get home and you're just completely wiped out, but you can't for the life of you figure out why. There wasn't one big, terrible thing that happened. Well, we're going to dig into the real reason behind that feeling and, more importantly, what you can actually do about it.
Yeah, it's easy to blame a tough project, maybe a demanding client, or even your boss. But what if the real culprit isn't one single massive event? What if what if it's actually a whole bunch of tiny, almost invisible things that just keep hitting you all day long?
Well, there's a name for this. Researchers Rob Cross, Gene Singer, and Karen Dillon call them micro-stresses. Basically, they're these tiny, relentless hits we take all day long from our interactions with other people. And they add up. They're becoming this huge, hidden source of the burnout that so many of us are feeling.
Okay, so the big question is, how can these little teeny tiny moments have such a gigantic impact on, well, everything? On our health, our happiness, even how much we get done. And believe me, the scale of this problem it's just staggering. I mean, get this. Some estimates show that a whopping 60 to 80% of all doctor visits are for things related to stress. It's so bad that OSHA, yeah, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, has literally declared stress a hazard in the workplace. A hazard.
Now, here's where it gets really tricky. Most of us, we just accept these little frustrations. It's just a normal part of the day, right? We barely even notice them happening. But the real kicker is that these micro stresses, they often come from the people we're closest to. Our colleagues, our families, our friends. All right, so where is all this stress actually coming from? Let's break it down. The research points to 12 common culprits, and they're all grouped into 3 big categories. Okay, first up, we have the stuff that just drains your personal capacity. Think of it like this. These are the interactions that pile extra work onto your plate, or just block you from getting your own work done. You know that feeling? It's like having your time and energy constantly siphoned off, little by little. Next, we've got the ones that attack your emotional reserves. This group is all about those interactions that just leave you feeling crummy. We're talking about the negative feelings, right? Worrying about someone you care about, feeling unsure if what you're doing even matters, or just walking away from a conversation feeling totally drained. And last but not least, the third category. These are the stressors that mess with your identity or your values. You know those moments that just feel wrong. They create friction with who you are at your core, like when you're pressured to chase a goal that you just don't believe in. And man, those can be absolutely exhausting. So here they are, all 12 of the common drivers laid out. You can see things like having misaligned priorities or maybe dealing with mistrust in your network. Just take a second and scan this list. Do any of them jump out at you? I bet if you look closely, you can probably pinpoint 2 or 3 that feel a little too familiar. And here's the key takeaway, the really crucial point. Each one of these little stressors might feel like no big deal in the moment, but the thing is, their impact, it can stick around for hours, sometimes even days. The authors of this research saw this pattern again and again. Really high-performing people burning out, not because of some huge crisis, but because of this slow, steady drip, drip, drip of tiny stressors. Okay, I know, this all sounds kind of depressing, right? But here's the good news, and there is good news. You're not doomed to just be overwhelmed by all this. The research actually lays out a really clear 3-step plan for fighting back and taking back control of your energy. Think of this as your personal toolkit for taking back your energy. It's really simple. Step 1, you're just going to pick 2 or 3 of your biggest microstressors and focus on those. Step 2, you're going to invest in relationships and activities that give you some perspective. And step 3, you're going to learn how to create some distance from the people or things that are draining you. Let's dig into each of these.
All right, so that first step is all about one thing, creating a little bit of space for yourself. See, these micro stresses, they create all this emotional noise that makes it almost impossible to think straight. So what you got to do is hit the pause button. Find something that totally absorbs you, something that helps you decompress, and just let all that static fade away. Only then can you actually think clearly about how to respond. Step 2 is a big one. It's all about perspective. What the research found is pretty cool.
People who have a lot going on in their lives, friends and hobbies from totally different areas, they just don't get hit by micro stresses in the same way. It's like these other connections open up your view of the world and help you realize that those little daily frustrations, they aren't the whole story. And finally, step 3. This one takes a little bit of courage because it means taking an honest look at your relationships. And look, we're not just talking about obviously toxic people. Sometimes it's people we genuinely like, but maybe they enable bad habits or they just have a knack for leaving you hanging. The goal here is just to recognize the effect they have on you and start putting up some healthy boundaries. So let's wrap this up. When you put it all together, what does it look like? Well, the most powerful thing you can do, the absolute first step, is just to start seeing these patterns for what they are. This leader from the study totally nailed it. Once you can actually identify your own personal stress patterns, you can start building the support system and the mindset you need to stop them in their tracks before they drain you. It's really about setting some new ground rules for yourself. And yeah, it might feel a little weird at first, but in the long run, it's what's going to make you healthier, happier, and way more effective. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that you don't have to just live with this. These micro stresses are not your destiny. The moment you start to recognize these tiny but powerful drains on your energy, you can start putting the right things in place to not just survive, but to actually thrive. So that leaves just one question. What's the first micro stress you're going to address?